Today is Tuesday, December 29, 2020. We're broadcasting live from Albany, Georgia. 7 days until Election Day here in the Peach State. Jon Ossoff, Raphael Warnock going down to the wire as they are going against Republicans Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. We'll talk with some folks here in Albany to get a sense of how the vote turnout is happening here. Of course, this is going to be a critical place in rural Georgia that could determine who wins the U.S. Senate seats. Also, a federal judge strikes down efforts to block black folks from voting. We'll talk about that here as well. Plus, on today's show, a black father defends his son as a white woman accuses his son of stealing her iPhone when in fact she left it in an Uber. Ben Crump has been hired to be his attorney. We will talk to that father and son right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin!
Hey folks, Roland Martin here, broadcasting live from Albany, Georgia. The third time we've been to this city since we've been spending time here in Georgia, focusing on the Georgia runoff. There are three races, one a statewide race, two of them for the United States Senate. This city is going to be a crucial place to determine who is going to be the next United States Senator. Rural Georgia, Republicans normally have done very well in rural Georgia, running up significant numbers, while Democrats have focused on Metro Atlanta. Metro Atlanta makes up 60% of the population of the state, but rural Georgia could be very well where it determines who wins. Remember, Joe Biden won this state by less than 12,000 votes because of how he did in places like Albany and Columbus and Warner Robins and Savannah and Macon and Augusta. And so Jon Ossoff and Pastor Raphael Warnock, they want to repeat that very thing in order for them to beat Republican incumbents Kelly Loeffler as well as David Perdue. Benny Hand, he is the chair of the Democratic Party here. He joins us right now. Benny, glad to have you here. Give us a sense, Benny, in terms of where we are in Albany. How are we looking in terms of this election totals?
How's that?
Early in-person voting of 9,344 as of today. Absentee ballots returned already, 5,600. So we're looking real good. We're actually ahead of pace as it relates to the general election.
Actually, go ahead, keep going.
So
first of all, start over. We couldn't actually hear you, so start from the top again, because now we got the microphone fixed.
Okay, so early voting in Dougherty County, it looks good right now. We're actually a little bit ahead of the general election. Right now we have about 9,300, 43 early voting in person, return absentee ballots, 5,640 return absentee ballots. So we're looking really good, and we expect those numbers to increase over the next couple of days.
Now, when I was talking with the folks about November 3rd, was it around 58% in this city? And so what are you looking trying to get that to? Some people talk about potentially 60 or 65 because, again, Republican areas in rural Georgia are going to be at 65, 70, 75. For Ossoff and Warner to win, they're going to need significant turnout places like Albany.
Yeah, we believe we can get to above 60 and possibly 65. Right now, the early vote turnout is really picking up. We're averaging close to 900 persons a day in person. And so we're really enthusiastic, and we believe that we'll get to those numbers. And there are groups who are actually out there pushing and encouraging our citizens to make certain they get out to vote.
Now, of course, there have been multiple rallies, events taking place. You're limited in terms of you having to be outdoors. And so we were out here earlier. We got some folks who are still sitting out here. And, of course, you've had a lot of people coming through here. Black Church Pack, they were out here. Of course, a new Georgia Project, a lot of different people like that. And have you seen before this level of intensity in places like Albany, the amount of attention that's being placed on a city like this?
I have not seen it. This is really unprecedented. Locally, we normally see the local groups. We'll see the Divine Nine and those groups out pushing. But to see groups from around the state and around the nation, to see and to receive support from around the nation, encouraging us to make certain we get the vote out, again, it is unprecedented for Albany, Dougherty County at this moment.
So 7 days left. We're going to see more things happen. There's been a significant amount of money poured into radio. Give us a sense in terms of what you expect to see over the next 7 days. Early voting ends on Friday, and of course, the election on Tuesday.
Yeah, so early voting here, actually, it'll end in Albany on Thursday, but we do expect to see even more numbers.
Explain that. No, hold up. Explain that.
Okay.
It's going to end in Albany. So in some place, early voting ends Thursday. Some places Friday.
Some places Thursday. Some places Friday. Friday is actually a holiday. It's New Year's, and so the election board here opt to take that Friday as a holiday. I think we added Saturday voting early in the month to be certain that we sort of got some extra days in. And so, yeah, early voting will end here on Thursday at 5 o'clock. As long as you're in the door at the James H. Gray Civic Center, you'll get an opportunity to vote.
We talked to Cliff Albright with Voters Matter on yesterday, and one of the things that he talked about, the beating back of Republican efforts to disqualify thousands of voters, about 3,000 in this county. Tell our folks the role that you played and what y'all saw happen here as they were trying to essentially invalidate and keep black folks from being able to cast ballots in this runoff.
Yeah, saw something very surprising. Last weekend we had, and I serve on the Board of Elections. I'm the chairman of the Board of Elections. We had two communications, one from a local attorney with 960 names, and one from a actually sitting city commissioner, B.J. Fletcher, with 2,381 names, saying that these people, they were challenging their abilities to vote in the runoff election, and asked the Board of Elections to validate their claim. And so the Board of Elections had a hearing. I won't say hearing. Board of Elections had a meeting to sort of look at it and look at the evidence and see whether or not we could sustain that. And the Board of Elections ultimately decided with a 3-1 vote to deny their request, and we turned that back. But again, something unprecedented. We were warned that it was coming, but we didn't think it would come at such a level. But to top that off, later today, we received another challenge that we would have had to answer, but because of the ruling that Judge Gardner just handed down, the temporary restraining order, so we won't really have to make a ruling on that, and probably till after the election. But again, we may have to go back and revisit that issue.
And the groups that are challenging, they're not from Georgia. This is a group that's out of Texas?
It's a group that's out of Texas, but they have a Georgia affiliate. And so when you look at the paperwork, it says Georgia True Vote. And so, yeah, it's a group out of Texas. The communication that we received from the group out of Texas comes from the letterhead of a Texas attorney. But Georgia, again, they have a Georgia affiliate, and they are recruiting Georgia citizens because you got to be a citizen. You can't do it anonymously. You gotta sort of show your hand and show who you are. But we have people who are willing to do it, and they are doing it.
All right, Benny Hand, we sure appreciate it, man. Thanks a bunch. Y'all are going to have, no pun intended, you're going to have your hands full. I'm sure they're going to try some other stuff between now and next Tuesday.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
To keep folks from voting. But thank goodness we have legal groups and third-party groups out here fighting on behalf of black voters.
Oh, absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
All right,
all right.
Benny, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
All right, now.
Folks, every single vote is going to matter in this election. Every single vote. And the Native American vote could very well be a difference maker here in Georgia as well. They played a huge role in Arizona when Joe Biden beating Donald Trump in Arizona. Joining us right now is O.J. Siemens. He is the founder of Four Directions, which focuses on the Native American vote. I met O.J. yesterday at Pastor Raphael Warnock rally in Gwinnett County, and I definitely want to get him on. O.J., welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered.
We've chosen you locally. First of all, Roland, it's really an honor to be on your show. I was watching just the forecast, the news you put on just before I came on, and I thought I was on another reservation. So we know what you're going through.
So, OJ, explain to a lot of our folks the reality is when you hear these elections, they talk about the power of the black vote. They talk about the importance of the Latino vote. You don't have a lot of attention on the Native American vote, but we saw in Arizona role that Native American voters played in that election. We've seen the exact same thing where Republicans was basically the voter suppression that was taking place against Native Americans in North Dakota as well. And so how critical will the Native American vote be here in Georgia? And give people a sense of the numbers of Native Americans who will be voting in this.
Well, we actually went, Georgia is one of the 3 states that you identify on the voter registration, you identify your race. There was 15,000 people that identified as Native Americans. And using the census and going through the numbers, we figured there's probably another 40,000 Native Americans out there. The majority of which we found in Atlanta are the metro area of Atlanta, like Fulton County, DeKalb, in which they identified themselves as Native Americans or others. So we're looking probably around maybe, 45, 50,000 Native Americans that are living in Georgia that we're targeting.
Now, of course, when you look at voting patterns, African Americans typically are voting Democrat. Same thing when it comes to Latinos at a lower number. What is the breakout? Do the Native Americans, are they evenly split, Republican and Democrat? Do they lean more Democrat than Republican? A sense of potentially who they will be targeting and voting for in this state in the runoffs?
Well, Native Americans basically really don't identify with parties, they identify with issues. And this past 4 years have made it very easy for Native Americans to decide what issues that are being looked at and answered or basically ignored. And in the elections, like in Arizona and in Nevada, Minnesota, Wisconsin, it was like a 95, 96 turnout rate in which they voted Democrat.
Wow, 95, 96%. And when you say the last 4 years, so you're saying that Native Americans have suffered greatly under Donald Trump and under Republican rule in the United States Senate?
Well, not only they have suffered from, his actions that he's taken. The Dakota Access Pipeline, for one, in which President Obama put a stop to it. Immediately, President Trump came in and he started the pipeline up. The desecration of sacred sites, his remarks using the name Pocahontas in a derogatory racial manner, in which basically after he did that, we actually, today is the 130th anniversary of the Wounded Knee Massacre. And so what we did is we started legislation that's in the Senate and the House to remove the medals awarded to the 7th Cavalry that murdered the women and children at Wounded Knee. So, the 4 years have been really detrimental to Indian country throughout the United States. There's been so many cuts. And again, the sacred sites, it's just over and over. So issue-based, they really didn't have any choice but to vote for individuals that would progress Native American issues. One important thing about people wondering why Georgia is important to Native Americans, Deb Haaland was recently nominated as the Secretary of Interior, which is a first time in America's history that a Native American was actually appointed a cabinet position in Interior. And the U.S. Senate is the one that confirms those nominations. And so Indian Country is looking at Georgia at who is going to take and support Deb Haaland's nomination, and with a lot of other reasons, but that one is really key right now. And so a lot of Native Americans in Georgia are really paying attention to this.
All right, then. Well, look, first of all, as we say, every vote does indeed count. Last question for you, OJ. There millions of dollars being spent on ads all around this particular state to reach those Native American voters. What are y'all doing? What are you actually doing? Is it in person? Obviously, you got COVID issues as well. And so how are you reaching out to those folks to get a sense of what they care about and what they're concerned about and how they're going to be voting?
Thanks for asking that. We actually have a COVID plan that we follow. Hey, science is science and it works. We prove it over and over. We've hit over 15,000 homes, person to person, where we knocked on the doors and talked to them. We've had conversations with about 4,000 or 5,000 people. We had a 90% positive rate that they are going to vote. We have our PPE that we wear when we knock on the doors. We also have a phone bank that we use to call individuals for those individuals that don't feel comfortable going on the doors. So, and we're also doing mail flyers to individuals. So we reached out right now, at least 15,000. We hit some of them 3 times. We're having conversations with them. We're identifying issues, and what we're trying to also do is let them know that the natives in Georgia, they also have the same issues as the natives throughout the United States, and that as a people that we can make a difference if they stand behind us. Our people always said we stand upon the shoulders of our ancestors, and therefore any barriers that they place before us, we're able to overcome them in order to ensure that we have the equal access to that ballot box.
All right, O.J. Siemens, founder of Four Directions. We certainly appreciate it. Thank you for joining us and giving our viewers a perspective about the Native can vote in this election.
My pleasure, and thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and you keep up the good fight. I really enjoy watching you.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much. All right, let's go to my panel right now. Joining me is Rena Shaw, the Lincoln Project Women's Coalition, Candace Kelly, legal analyst, and also Michael Brown, Vice Chair, DNC Financial Committee. Michael, you know these politics well. When it comes to these elections, it's all about when you say every vote does indeed count. That's the case. Every vote does indeed. And so exactly how do you see what's shaping up? When you look at what's happening here, Warnock is on a better foot than Ossoff. But Ossoff had to really, frankly, draft off of Warnock when it comes to that black vote in order for both of them because, and they're very interesting, Mike, I've never seen a campaign where candidates are literally running together because they understand both have to win. If Warnock wins and Ossoff loses, then 51-49, and that's part of the issue there. And so Democrats need both of these seats, and Republicans need both of these seats as well.
Well, first of all, Happy New Year to you, Roland, and to your fantastic team, and to my fellow panelists, Happy New Year to you as well. You know, I tell you, Roland, this in a week or so, or 8 days, depending on how you look at it, the challenge for both Democratic candidates is traditionally, historically, runoff elections, special elections. Democrats do not fare well. We certainly take presidential elections very seriously. You may take your mayor's race in your city very seriously. But for whatever reason, in a runoff and special, we just have not. Hopefully people understand the stakes. I know that folks are on the ground. We're all on the phones doing what we can to make sure folks not just understand the importance, but then execute that importance by getting out to vote. So it's clearly a challenge. You're right about splitting one or the other, and it would be great if one won, but it doesn't really help the future of our country. We need both to win. So Vice President-elect Kamala Harris can break the tie in the United States Senate.
Raina, Lincoln Project, one of the groups actually doing canvas. A lot of third-party groups are putting the money on the ground as opposed to just giving it right to the campaigns. That's one of the things that's also quite interesting that we're seeing here in Georgia.
Yeah, and that's unusual. Of course, just as my previous panelist said, it's one of those things that this is not how it's supposed to be. Traditionally, what we've seen for Republicans, it's been quite good in a runoff. Everything's been turned on its head, especially if you're looking at Washington, D.C. today, developments in the U.S. Senate. So that's another matter. But when you talk about these groups investing in the ground game, as well as these fights, pushing back against that Texas-based group, True the Vote, I believe it's called, and really going mano a mano, you've got to do it. What these people are trying to do is disenfranchise people through methods that the average voter is not familiar with. So when the average voter rolls up usually to say, the polls and says, look, I'm here to vote, and they're handed a provisional ballot, they're sort of like, okay, that's fine. I think the education this year that's done by these third-party groups is so crucial. And that sort of, that really foresight, that having vision ahead of time is imperative. I think it's going to have everything to do with the outcome. And really, obviously, turnout is everything. But accessibility, if the accessibility isn't there, that's where you see the efforts of people like Stacey Abrams, though they were, really well laid, and the foundation, she said it many years ago, not that many years ago, but frankly, this is a long game. And really what I see here is strategic vision of these third-party groups being imperative. I'm so glad, because what I mean as an operative is a lot of money lost, giving it right to that campaign piggy bank, and frankly, just going to third-party vendors who don't do that much. It gets put on stuff that, of course, digital is all important nowadays, but it's not everything. The ground game, canvassing, even in the midst of a pandemic safely, is going to be imperative.
Candace, legal. Look, what Republicans are doing, they're trying everything they can. They were shell-shocked that Joe Biden won this traditional red state. They were angry. They're already talking about changing all the vote laws that they passed back because they want to make it harder for folks to vote. And so these legal fights, you see what happened here. Again, we've had Black Voters Matter on constantly talking about the battle going on. I mean, it's literally waging a legal war. It's on a battlefield in the courts fighting Republican efforts to suppress the vote, especially Black voters in Georgia.
Absolutely. Roland, what the Republicans are doing is they are using the legal system in order to carry out their voter suppression efforts. And as we saw today, what Stacey Abrams' sister, Judge Abrams Gardner, said was that the case really lacked merit and that they were going to be unsuccessful. And basically, just procedurally, you can't remove 4,000 people and purge people from voting lists 90 days within a federal election and without notice. So what we continue to see over and over is the courts being filled up with frivolous lawsuits and the Republicans continuing to lose. What's happening is that panic is setting in, and panic should set in. We are looking at two Democrats who over the past month have raised over $100 million. That is nothing to sneeze at. And so when we see this panic, we're going to see it in many different ways. We have a few more days before this voting is over, but we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more people hitting the courts to try to make their case in order to just be a distraction. And I understand, and they understand too, what's at stake. I am so glad that you had OJ on to talk about Native Americans. There are about 150,000 Native Americans that are in Georgia. As he talked about, they're targeting about 20 to 30,000. What people need to understand is that even in the House of Representatives, the largest number of Native Americans was voted in, 6, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. So when we look at all of these things put together, Republicans should be scared because everybody is doing their work. As Raina said, what's happening on the ground, people knocking on doors and making sure that people are informed, it is going to make a difference.
Well, you talk about making the difference. It all matters in this state. Joining us right now is Macy Hall. She is the state director for March on Georgia. Macy, glad to have you and Roland Martin Unfiltered. So first of all, explain to folks exactly what is March on Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. So March On is an organization that started out in 2017, in the Women's March in Washington. And from there, we have empowered and elevated voices of young people, in issues like our mental problem, gun reform, women's rights, and now we're doing voter protection to ensure that all these voters out.
You talk about reaching out to young voters, some 6,000 people who did not November 3rd. They're voting here in this runoff. There are also 23 or 20,000 folks who turn 18 by Tuesday. How have y'all trying to reach them to make sure that they are active and voting in this runoff?
Yeah, so March On actually has a youth coalition that we work with called the Future Coalition. And they have created partners all around the state of Georgia with an organization called Futures for Progress. So we've partnered with 18 by Vote. We've partnered with Blue Georgia, getting all of those young activists who are ready to be on the ground and working out there. And additionally, we have gone out to all of the campuses. We've done events all throughout Atlanta and these rural areas to ensure that they're getting educated, that they're excited. I think a lot right now within 2020, a lot of our young people are staying home and they're being more aware of what's going on. And they see that this is so important. And just like people of color, those young voters were something that really, really took us over the edge back in November.
Do you also think that a lot of these young voters realize after the death of George Floyd that, look, protest is one thing, but you also got to change policy. And in order for you to change policy, you got to change the policy making. Because we've had various polos on the show. And even when it came to protest, there was a significant number of voters who were in that 18 to 35, 89 demographic that said, you know what, I don't want politics, so therefore, and I'm protesting. You can't do one and not do the other. You got to do both.
Yes, yes. And what's really, really important is that not only just our senators and getting them elected, but also the people who are local. When we look at the election that happened in November, we were able to see people of color coming into power. Representative McBath is somebody who has been a part of the community and been very vocal about the things that are going on. So when we're looking at getting people in power, we're looking at individuals who we can pick up the phone and call and hold them accountable for the things that they promised us.
When we talk about, again, these last 7 days, what is going to be y'all focus? And what areas are you focused? Yesterday, I talked to Pastor Jamal Brown. He told me that he told the Black Church Pack, don't come to Atlanta. Go everywhere but Atlanta.
Yes.
Because so many people want to focus on Metro Atlanta. Have y'all really been, cultivating and tilling the soil in these parts of the state to reach these voters and others there, opposed to sticking to the larger cities?
Absolutely. When our team got together and we kind of made our game plan for what we were going to do, my biggest thing was we're not going to Atlanta. Now, of course, we stopped through and we had a good time and we enjoyed it, but we wanted to go out to these rural areas. When you look at the numbers and all the numbers that came in, it wasn't Atlanta that won that election. It was these rural areas. And there's so many more people who have to get their vote out, who didn't get a chance to vote, or just weren't ready. And so we've already gone to Athens, we've gone to Dalton, we've gone out to Bibb County, we were out in Macon yesterday, we went to Warner Robins, we're headed out to Columbus tonight. So going into these areas and making sure that these individuals know you are the reason that we were able to turn Georgia blue, and you're the reason that we're going to be able to keep Georgia blue.
Last question for you. One of the things that I've talked to other groups as well, and they've been somewhat at how they've been more receptive to third-party groups. Look, Ossoff and Warnock, they've raised $10 million in the last 2 months. But what people also realize is that if you keep giving campaigns and you're not putting the money, campaigns are getting the money all on ads and stuff along those. But groups like yours, being ground, being able to pave canvas, being able to drive, it's also huge. Have you all seen that where in this cycle, funding to your group of party groups has been a lot better than in previous years?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So one of the things that we kind of focus on is there's so many partners here on the ground that we kind of all have to separate and conquer to this together. So we want to focus on the voter suppression tactics and making sure that our voters are safe. So when we started out with the general, we traveled from Houston all the way out to Atlanta, traveling through the South, knowing where those areas of voter suppression was going to happen. And then now coming into Georgia, we saw all these things happening when Stacey was running and all these different things. Voter suppression is very real. They are putting a lot of myths out there. They're misleading these voters. And so we wanted to make sure that we were educating voters, we were protecting voters, and we were making sure that they were staying in lines. So when we're looking at all these different partners, it's been phenomenal support. And of course, a lot of people are like, we want to get to Georgia and we want to make something happen. But, you know, the support that we've gotten from the nation really shows how important this election is, not just for Georgia, but for the United States as a whole.
All right, Macy Hall, Georgia's director for March on Georgia. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks a bunch. To that particular point, Mike, I want to pick up on that, and that is, again, how crucial third-party groups are playing. We have been running into a lot of people. As you see, of course, you got the Black Voters Matter, We Got Power tour. They've got buses traveling all over the state. They've been in these rural parts of the state as well. We've been, of course, New Georgia Project. We've been, of course, Fair. I mean, so many different groups. And I think that what people now understand, and I dare say, Michael, I think the election of Obama taught a lot of people about how the sausage is made in politics. What I mean by that is you saw a lot of people for the first time who became bunners, who learned how politics works. Because folks were, well, I can't give $1 million. Well, first of all, there are limits how much you can give as an individual or a couple to the Democratic National Committee. But then people begin to realize also political action committees. And so what we have seen, as I mentioned, Black Church PAC, Alpha Phi Alpha, Political Action Committee. You have other sororities have this as well. You've got other third-party groups. And folks are now saying, wait a minute, if I want to be able to support someone, I don't have to give money. If my $50 goes to a political campaign, my $50 makes a bigger difference going to one of these third-party groups where it's going directly on the ground and being targeted in a different way. Your thoughts?
Well, I hate to keep using the word historically, but historically, and the tide is certainly shifting, but historically, right-leaning groups or right-leaning America have been much more conscious about third-party groups and third-party political donations and helping those outside groups than the left have. But recently, and as you obviously mentioned correctly, right during that first Obama election in 2008, the third-party groups began to pick up some steam. And the way you pick up steam is, yes, having boots on the ground, obviously knocking on doors, phone banking, all the traditional ways. And it's great to have volunteers, but you need economic and money resources to fund a lot of these efforts. The volunteers are great, and clearly you can't win without them. But you also need resources. So like your previous guest mentioned, she's going to Columbus, Georgia. They have to put gas in that van. They have to eat. They may have to stay overnight somewhere. They may have to rent tables or chairs, whatever they have to do. They need money to do it. And so economically, I'm glad we've made a turn and understand how important it is to make sure we fund third-party operations.
That particular point there, Candace, that Michael makes, look, it costs money, and he's right. And too often, what's happened is, on the campaign side, they've wanted black and brown folks to volunteer. But guess what? You're paying, frankly, these white consultants. This is where money has to go on the ground. And to his point, there's gas, there's food, there's hotel bills, there's all those things that go as a part of running a campaign. And I think being able to see the influx of third-party groups mobilizing and organizing, they are also hitting folks around issues. That is also different from campaigns, because people get caught in, I don't love the candidate. But these other groups are saying, damn that, these are the issues they're advocating. You better focus on that.
Absolutely. And what people are seeing now is a live civic lesson unfolding, and then they are a part of it. And that's amazing that they're able to not only learn through the process, but learn through the process from people that they know. It's different when you see somebody who's on TV and you don't know them, you're not even able to physically touch them, as opposed to, LaRonda, who knocks at the door and says, hey, don't I know you from church? Well, these are the issues that we're talking about, and these are the issues that you should be concerned about. When people see faces that they trust, when people see themselves in other people that are talking to them, then there's an easier buy-in. And then there's an easier buy-in, literally, of the giving of money in order to make that truck run and to fill that gas that Michael was talking about. So the whole process, like he said, Michael, since Obama, we've seen an unfolding of events that is unprecedented, where people have become experts and have taken a lot more seriously the power of their one vote, the power of their $1 or $5, because they see how the small grows into a big snowball in terms of making a difference. And to see people that again, hitting the ground and saying, hey, I know this person and I can identify, that's what really, really makes a difference here. And that's what we see going on.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. Coming up next on the show, we'll talk to a woman who's leading a group where they're targeting an NBA owner because of the money he is making off of prisoner phone calls. We're going to explain this huge controversial issue and how it is really hurting the families of folks who are in prison in America. Also on today's show, the black father, where a white woman in New York attacked him and his son because she said that his son stole her iPhone when in fact she left it in an Uber. We will talk with them on the show. That is next as we broadcast live from Albany, Georgia. We are covering the Georgia Senate runoff. Roland Martin Unfiltered. We'll be back in a moment.
If your vote didn't matter, you wouldn't have so many people trying so hard to stop you from voting. There is some value there. But even when you talk about that people are not paying attention to your issues, I can't pay attention to your issues if I don't even know you there. And the only reason people are going to know you there is when you show up to the polls and vote. That's when that power manifests itself. But as long as you stay at home, as long as you're making excuses, then guess what? You will always experience these issues that we're experiencing today. And another thing, don't get caught up in the candidates, right? There's no such thing as a perfect candidate, but you should be going to vote for the most important person, and that is you and the one you love. You talk about you'll fight for the one you love. You're willing to die for the one you love. You need to ask yourself, are you willing to vote for the one you love? Because if you don't, there's going to be somebody's neck on yours pretty soon.
When you're 22, you absolutely do not expect to be diagnosed with cancer. You know that it can always come back. And that's why I'm supporting Raphael Warnock, because he understands that healthcare is fundamental to people's lives. I'm sick and tired of being represented by people who are actively working to take away my healthcare. Raphael Warnock fights for people. That's what he cares about.
I'm Raphael Warnock, and I approve this message.
We're at Mom's Kitchen in Preston, Georgia. It's a family business. I enjoy making people happy, giving them a good meal. But since COVID, we had to close our main dining room. We lost all of that business, and we used to do a lot of caterings. We can't do any of that anymore. David Perdue knew what was about to happen. He was getting classified briefings about the pandemic. But instead of him being concerned about us, he off selling stock. We had no idea we'd have to close our businesses off. We'd lose caterings, and so many people died. And then when we needed help the most, he fought against the stimulus checks and to cut unemployment insurance. Purdue needs to come out and Ossoff in. Early voting starts December 14th. You got to make a plan to vote.
I'm John Ossoff, and I approve this message.
We got power. We're about to get ready to launch our We Got Power tour.
Slim and I are going on the blackest bus in America. We're hitting the streets again.
We're going to be going through at least 12 states, maybe more. I'm just really excited.
Now, it's a little bit different this time because COVID-19, we've got to wear masks, we've got to be socially distanced, but we are very committed that we've got to get in the streets and inspire and encourage our people in ways that are socially distant.
Ready to hit the road, ready to see our folks, ready to be socially distant, ready to mask up.
On our way to Pennsylvania, we'll be there for 2 days, and then we're headed to Ohio to Cleveland.
We're going to be just spreading a lot of love and building a lot of power.
The very last day, we're going to be out here on the ground in these streets because our people need us. Can't stop, won't stop.
Register to vote. You can even request your online vote by mail ballot by clicking the link or by scanning our QR code with your camera. Vote early. Vote today, because we got power.
All right, folks, glad to be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We're broadcasting live here, as I said, from Albany, Georgia, one of the critical places in this Georgia Senate runoff. A lot of issues that we obviously cover on this show, and one of the issues that does not get a lot of attention from mainstream media deals with how the families of people who are in prison are spending millions and billions of dollars a year just to make phone calls. COVID is even more significant because they can't go visit their family members. My next guest has really been targeting an NBA owner on this issue who has made his money from this very thing. Now, we had Mignon Clyburn when she was on the FCC. She pushed through, we had her on my TV One show, she pushed through a proposal that would limit the amount of money they can make. Well, Republicans overruled that when Donald Trump became president. And it goes to show you again how folks don't necessarily look at some things. So Bianca Tyke, she joins us right now. She's the founder, executive director of Worth Rises. And she has been trying to get the NBA to do something about the owner of the Detroit Pistons. She joins us right now. Bianca, how you doing?
Hi, how are you? Thanks so much for having me, Roland.
Give our folks a sense of how much money we're talking about. The billions these folks are making off of prisoner phone calls.
Sure. So the prison phone industry, which it covers both prisons and jails and immigration detention centers, is about a $1.4 billion industry. And Securus in particular, which is the company that I know we're going to talk about because it is the company that Tom Gores owns through his private equity firm, makes about $700 million a year on prison and jail phone calls, as well as other services that they have inside of prison facilities.
And so when we talk about that money, we talk about what they're able to do. Well, people don't realize this, and Mignon Clyburn told us this, how in some of these places, these sheriffs are the ones who are in control of how much to charge, how much time they get. And let our folks know just what the cost is for some of these calls per minute, what they're charging families.
Sure. So these contracts are often what we refer to as profit-sharing contracts. They're contracts between the private corporations and the local sheriffs or correctional agencies where they share the proceeds or the profits or the revenues that are made. And those rates can range today up to $1 a minute, meaning a 15-minute phone call local down the street can cost $15.
And so one of the things that when we were talking before, I told him her was spending $500 to $600 a month just trying to talk to their loved one in jail.
That's not atypical. In fact, we hear it so often. And a study showed not too long ago that, in fact, 1 in 3 families who has an incarcerated loved one goes into debt simply trying to stay in touch through the cost of calls, the cost of visits. And 87% of those people who are bearing those costs are women, and largely women of color.
So have you had a response from the owner of the Pistons, from the NBA, and what sort of a response you've also gotten around the country, or other people joining you in this effort as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so as you know, we've been going after Tom Gores. Tom Gores is the owner of Platinum Equity, the private equity firm that owns Securus, one of the 2 largest companies in this field. It's important to note that in the prison industry, the prison telecom industry, 2 companies share about 80% of that market. And his company is one of them, and he is the owner of the Detroit Pistons. And so we are trying to rally as much support from the public and from others to really engage in this fight and to tell Tom Gores that it's not okay that he's making money off our communities in this way.
All right, then. Well, look, the work they're doing is great. This is one of those issues people don't really focus on. We're certainly glad that y'all shining a light on it. Certainly keep us up to date with what happens with the story.
Yeah. If we could, thank you so much for having us. I just ask that people visit pistonsdeservebetter.com to learn more about the campaign and get involved. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Candace, I want to start with you. Again, we talk about criminal justice reform. We think in terms of sentencing. We think in terms of marijuana convictions. But this is one of those things that's of this system that's a multi-billion-dollar impact. And so while people are out here protesting, other folks are sitting here, these private equity companies, making millions and billions of dollars off of the poor and these are families who can't afford. I mean, think about it. If you're spending $500 a month communicating with a loved one, you're spending $6,000 a year. That is crazy for folks who are economically don't have those resources.
Roland, it is crazy. And the shameful irony here is that here you have Tom Gores who take charge of this team of brown and black people who look just like the people that he's taking advantage of behind prison bars. You also talked about criminal justice reform and what we're doing with solitary confinement. We know that when people don't have contact with people from the outside world, that they literally lose their minds to the point where many have commit suicide. So when we look at that, we see how all of the dots have connected and why he is now saying that he's going to decrease some of the costs and also take a look at donating money in order to help with recidivism rates. What he should do is make sure that all of the inmates who lost particular amounts of money get reimbursed through commissary or something of that nature, because this is real money. As you said, if you're spending $6,000, $7,000 a year, that's what people spend a year on groceries, especially in the time of COVID when so many people are losing their money. So all of this is something that I don't think is over. While Gore said, yes, I'm going to change some of the rates and I'm going to change some of my ways, it's just a little bit too late because he didn't care about it before. He's only caring about it now because of the ad that was put out in the New York Times. He was called out. It kind of reminds me of Kelly Loeffler and how she put down Black Lives Matter. But then on the other hand, here she was, owner of a WNBA team that was full of women of color. So the disgusting, paradox is just clear in both situations. And I don't think that we're going to see the end of it.
And let's see, Rena, what happens if NBA players pick up this cause. They're going to be playing against the Pistons. This is one of those things that if you as a league, if you want to talk about Black Lives Matter, this is one of those things where you can challenge the owner of the Pistons to say, we need you to do more. And sure, this might impact your private equity company, but it's right.
Well, Roland, with movements, I think that's the beauty of living in the year 2020, aside from this whole horrible pandemic, is that we do live in a society where messaging, if done right, if done through influential messengers, it has the potential to truly change hearts and minds within minutes. And that's what I think we're looking at when we look at big places like the NBA, where you have a lot of people who have individual acclaim, and then there's, group efforts as well. And so what I love about what Bianca's doing, and visited the website, I think it's an incredible site. I think drawing attention, a different sphere, to problems that don't impact people who look like you. I think that is what the BLM movement really wanted to underscore and really bring attention to, and for a variety of reasons. It was one of the smaller messages, in my opinion, I'll say, but I think it will be a success moving forward into 2021, because I think a lot about the prison industrial complex in this country. And it's a very sophisticated term that gets thrown around on Capitol Hill often when we talk about criminal justice reform. But what we really need to see is that the interest of government and industry that essentially use surveillance, policing, and imprisoning people as solutions to economic and social problems, trying to tell us, the common man in America, that these are solutions. Throw these people away and, lock these people up and throw away the key. That makes us forget about them. And so these big movements have a potential to change the hearts and minds in minutes and overnight of folks who just don't understand, who don't relate, who have an assumption perhaps that when anybody's calling you from jail, that it's the kind of thing that when they call collect, it's not a big deal. How much money could that be? When you see the numbers in real time and what it's doing, pillars of homes like women, and as a woman of color, I must say the education piece is everything, because when you lock up somebody that doesn't look like me and has a different problem entirely, that relies on something that corporations are doing, that wealthy individuals are doing, it's hard to connect the dots. And so it's, instead of really going deeper and trying to find a way to connect the dots that might be too complex for certain folks who have limited time spans nowadays, I really think that big movements are the way to go. And this will bring us the change we want to see for criminal justice reform going into 2021. We've talked about on this show oftentimes how it's bipartisan. There's a lot of shared views there across the political spectrum on how we really change the way this country incarcerates our people, and particularly young Black men. I just want to make one point. It's now the year 2020, but since 2007, I've been pen pals with a couple folks over at the DC General. I mean, it's been eye-opening to me to be a pen pal to people who are locked up, because I see how much they crave human interaction, attention, and I've been sort of acquainted with some of the bigger problems that I just had not thought existed for them. So 13 years now, and I encourage folks to really find ways to open their eyes up to problems of folks who don't look like you.
Michael, again, we would talk about the money involved when we talk about the impact on families. Remember when Jan Clyburn pushed through this effort change of the FCC, Republicans reversed it. There's another example where elections have consequences. When you had a Democratic president, Democrats had a 3-2 majority on the FCC. They were able to regulate this. Trump wins, Republicans turn it over. Damn that. Make as much money as you can off of these poor folks.
As we've talked about many times, you're right. Elections have consequences, but elections have consequences all up and down the ballot. And you can have. We live in a capitalist society, so no one's suggesting that whoever the phone service company is shouldn't make a profit. But what should that profit be capped at? And that's what legislators can do. Legislators, whether you're right, whether it's the FCC or state legislative bodies or city legislative bodies, or obviously the federal government or Congress, can come in and regulate how much somebody can make off of these phone calls. But it takes a lot of courage, because usually the people that own these companies have resources. They have lobbying teams that come in and try to make sure and suppress those bills seeing the light of day, or make sure they count their votes, whether it's on the Republican side, to make sure that they don't, what they would call buckle under this kind of social conscious pressure. But there are several different points where elections have consequences, and this is one of them. So you actually can tell your state legislator or your city council person or whoever you see in the grocery store, hey, I want you to write a bill that caps how much people can make on these types of phone calls. And you can do that. But obviously it takes that kind of effort. It takes that kind of outreach, but it is doable.
Let's go to Oakland, where some people are saying that the person responsible for destroying a Breonna Taylor sculpture should be charged with a hate crime. 2 weeks ago, the sculpture was just in Oakland's Latham Square, and it was, again, it was put up just 2 weeks ago. Leo Carr, who sculpted the piece, described the sculpture, quote, as an act of racist aggression. He said, hours and hours of my work by hand. Before the pandemic, I was a waiter, so I paid for my own pocket. It wasn't cheap. It was incredibly hurtful person. At the time, the Oakland PD, they have launched an investigation. No word of anyone has been arrested. Caution has created a GoFundMe page to raise money to repair and reinstall the statue in bronze. In Springfield, Massachusetts, local police, the FBI, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms are investigating a fire at a black church that took place early yesterday morning. Firefighters responded to a call at the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Presbyterian Church around 5 a.m. It took them nearly an hour to extinguish the fire. Springfield Fire Commissioner Bernard Calvi believes the fire is highly suspicious, being that there have been 3 other fires in the same area in the last 3 weeks. Now, they are investigating whether this was a case of arson or if it was accidental. And so we'll keep you up to date on that particular story as well. One of the issues we're looking at is also COVID-19. It is still with us. Of course, we're out here masked up. Folks who are sitting behind me here in Albany, same thing. And in fact, this was one of the places y'all might remember we covered early on where this was ground zero in Georgia for COVID-19 cases. Well, today, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris and her husband, they took their COVID vaccine shots. Here's some of that video.
Yes. It is such an honor to be administering your vaccine today. Thank you very much, Nurse Patricia. You're welcome. Kindly verify the information. Yeah, that's all correct. It's all correct? Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Okay. Would it be okay if I administer it? Yes, of course. Of course. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. Okay. So I will first sanitize your arm, and then I will administer the vaccine. Okay, got it. How are you doing today? I'm doing well. You've been busy, huh? Yes, ma'am. It's good to be here at United Medical Center. You guys do such good work here. Thank you. Okay, let's do it. All righty. Ready? Yeah, I'm ready. That was easy. Thank you. There's no bleeding. I barely felt it. Okay. I barely felt it. Awesome. I will put the phone down, and we are all right. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Nurse Patricia. Thank you. Well, I want to thank United Medical Center for the work that you do in Southeast DC, serving a community that is often overlooked. So it is good to be here. And I have now been vaccinated.
Well, Michael, that's what leaders do. Leaders actually lead to see her take the shot. You've had Vice President Mike Pence has taken the vaccine shot. Of course, idiot is out playing golf. He doesn't feel he needs to take this shot, but then that's also why leader. Michael?
Yeah, all right, Roland, couldn't hear you. I think all the actual both congressional leadership and a lot of the White House leadership have gotten the vaccine, except for, as you mentioned, the person playing golf today and yesterday and the day before that, and I'm certain playing tomorrow. So, there clearly is not a priority to set a good example on his way out the door. He is trying to cause as much chaos and confusion about everything as possible, as he's done over the last 4 years or so. So, it is what it is. He's not going to change. It's unfortunate. The fortunate part, we have a new president. And as you know, how proud I am of President-elect Biden. He taught me in law school, so I know what kind of guy he is. He's going to be a great president. Clearly, the president-elect, Kamala Harris, is also going to be a wonderful addition to the leadership of our country. We know that Gavin Newsom has appointed a Latino American to fill Senator Harris's seat in California. So, obviously, and I know there was some outrage about that. They thought it should have been a black woman that took her spot, but nonetheless, it was a person of color. So as we move forward, let's get rid of the Trump folks. Hopefully, we have a new day.
Very simple, Candace. Leaders lead, and so we have people here who don't do this. In fact, I had a guy earlier, he asked me, hey, would you take the vaccine? I was like, hell yeah, I would. He said, well, you're one of the first African-Americans I heard say so. There's a lot of black people who have died as a result of this COVID-19, so we better get it together. You damn right take this vaccine, because we've had the experts, the Medical Association, we've had black doctors who have been working on this as well. Again, to see Vice-President Kamala Harris do this, that's important, because we have to instill confidence in the American people that if the VP-elect took the vaccine, well, guess what? So should we.
Yes. Some interesting marketing efforts here in terms of the vice president-elect. And then in addition, you had a Guyanese nurse that administered the vaccine. And if you know anything about home health aides, or if you've been in a hospital, no matter what hospital, you're going to be, within some vicinity of someone who is from another country, whether it's Haiti, whether it's Senegal, Nigeria, or someone like today who's Guyanese. So the whole idea is to put people in positions that you trust and that you see. And so this was really a two-pronged effort here, that you had two women of color going through this process. As Michael already said, and you said, the president has not taken this vaccine as well he should in order to make a point. So this doesn't just make him a lame duck president, just makes him a lame president for not standing up and being a leader. So, we've seen some of the highest numbers today in terms of the number of people that are on ventilators today, the highest number ever. So Joe Biden's message today to the people was, we need to speed this up, which is why I promise you 100 million vaccines within my first 100 days. That would be a valiant effort if he completed it, but at least it's a message that's more than we have today, right? We have vaccines that are to the states, but we don't have people to administer them because there's just been no plan. Ever since day one, there's been no plan, which is why even though expeditiously the vaccine was created, now we're on the level where we can't even get them in people's arms. No plan. No plan.
Yep. Rena, real quick again. First of all, call him president. He is not a president. As far as I'm concerned, Obama was the 44th, Biden 46th. I'm just going to completely skip over the number 5 because what we're seeing is we're seeing this pathetic degenerate of a man spend his time on the golf course, delaying signing the COVID bill. Doesn't care about masks, doesn't care about the vaccine. He only cares about his own ego. And frankly, 25 days? It can't get here soon enough. Inauguration day on January 20th.
Well, Roland, I have a very personal link to this story, as again I've talked about on this show many times, is that actually my husband is a physician here in Northern Virginia, and he got his vaccine exactly the week before Christmas. So Christmas was Friday. He got it the Friday before. So that was his first dose, and he got the Pfizer vaccine. He'll be getting his second dose on January 8th. My brother, who's a physician at our clinic in southern West Virginia, just made it available to me. He gave me access to his email, and I have it here. 2 hours ago, he got an email from the Vaccine Administration Management System that says your organization or employer designated you in a priority group for immunization. And that's because he put through a request saying, hey, me and my employees need this vaccine. So here in Northern Virginia, very affluent Northern Virginia, we are fortunate to live in. Compared to what my family members are going through in rural West Virginia, it's night and day. My brother had to request 2 days ago to get the vaccine, and he's only 2 hours ago just now getting the opportunity to schedule an appointment with the participating clinic through a link. And so when you click through that link, it takes you to, again, the Vaccine Administration Management System. It's part of CDC.gov, and basically it just says when he fills out this application, it allows for him to be pre-screened, and if qualified, register for an account and then schedule his COVID-19 vaccine. And an account will allow for his for the West Virginia State Health Department as well as the CDC to collect his information to use in public health data analysis. So, again, I have my master's in public health from here at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. This is a massive, massive failure of Trump, Roland. We cannot understate it, and I really think we will see the repercussions in the months to come. I'm only just now hearing from other health professionals, and my husband is as well. We are getting calls from fellow MDs, fellow MPH, people who have degrees out the wazoo, who are nervous to take this vaccine. And so, look, Dr. Tayson Bell, who I've been on the show with and is an incredible medical provider and just a great overall human, I think, was featured in the New York Times recently. A husband, got his vaccine, and then he and his wife and kids don't have it. That's what we're going through in this house right now. I do not have the vaccine. I do not plan on jumping in line and going to family's clinic in West Virginia to try to get the vaccine. I'm not there. I haven't been there for many months, so I'm not going to jump. But this is a failure of our federal government. You know me. You know I'm a limited government proponent. Yep. I believe in being a conservative for that reason, but if there were ever a time for massive federal unified response, it would have been in January this year, in May of this year, in August of this year, and here we are in December. This administration has failed its people. Anytime. No, it's not going to happen. He's leaving office.
Yeah, pure and simple. They have no interest in leading. Simple as that. None whatsoever.
No remorse either.
I got to go to a break real quick. No, of course not. Well, because when you only care about yourself, then you don't care about anybody else. Got to go to a break. We come back. We saw the video this weekend, this disturbing video that a father posted on Instagram of a white woman in New York accosting him and her son, accusing her son of stealing her iPhone, when in fact he didn't. And the hotel manager basically sided with her. We're going to talk with that father and son next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live from Albany, Georgia. Back in a moment.
This is Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant. Your vote matters. It's coming down to the finish, and this will be every vote counts. And so I'm charging every person in Georgia, make sure you vote, because it'll be your vote that'll send 2 senators to Washington, D.C.
America is a complicated story of people building a more perfect union. And if you don't think there's been any change, you should down with Anjanette Young. You should sit down from some of the folks in that generation who know the distance we've come. And as we continue to hard, change comes. The other side knows your power. The other side knows your voice. That's why they're engaged in voter suppression. If you weren't so powerful, they wouldn't be trying so hard to stop you from voting. And so you ought to stand up. It's a defining moment in American history and win the future for all of our children.
Daring to demand the right to vote for Black Americans in Selma, Alabama, 55 years ago, John Lewis was nearly killed as he and hundreds marched across this bridge. That movement's courage secured the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, but the promise of equal justice in America remains unfulfilled. So together we'll fight for a new Civil Rights Act and a new Voting Rights Act to ensure equal justice for all, no matter the color of our skin, to end racial profiling and police brutality, and to stop anyone from suppressing the sacred right to vote. Congressman Lewis gave me my first job. He instilled in me the conviction to fight for justice. He said to never give in, never give up, keep the faith, and keep our eyes on the prize. I'm John Ossoff. I approve this message.
Too many people struggled, suffered, and died possible for every American to exercise their right to vote.
We have always used music to speak up for us, but we have been heard, underestimated, and undervalued throughout our existence. But it's time we play a new song. We can make the rules. We can choose the leader, and our vote can make the difference.
Just watch how I do it.
We know by now that change will not come to us.
Just watch how I do it.
Black voters matter. It's our party. Step into your moment.
All right, folks, welcome back to Albany, Georgia. Man, this weekend, this video was posted on Instagram. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I saw it, and I said, my God, I've got to get this father on the show. He follows me on Instagram. I sent him a DM. But first, y'all have seen the video, but it is still shocking every time we see it. This crazy, deranged-ass white woman, the latest Karen. Watch this, y'all.
Show me this is my phone.
Show me. No. You don't have to explain nothing to her.
Take the case off. That's mine. Literally, get it back, please.
Are you kidding me? You feel like there's only one iPhone made in the world?
No. Okay, then show me the. Show me all my.
You get a life
over there. No, what's on your background?
You better go use find my iPhone. Go do that.
Find my iPhone is on. On that. Right
no, you can't. No.
I'm
the
manager of the hotel.
I don't care.
He will
this
right
is my
now.
son. Hey, didn't you see me just come downstairs out of the fucking elevator?
I'm trying to help. Man.
No, but you're not helping.
I am.
What you've been is disrespectful.
No, I'm trying to settle the situation.
My son has nothing to do with her.
No. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in the lobby. Then show me the proof. No, he's not leaving. Show me the proof.
Are you kidding me? You better get on.
I need you away.
Let's go, kid.
I need you away. I'm sorry.
Better get on. We have you see two black people?
No, I'm not letting him walk away with my phone.
Wait. Better get on somewhere.
No, please get my phone back. I cannot not have my phone.
Listen, get your.
And that was only 1 minute of the video. It's a much longer video that the hotel has. Keon Harold joins us right now. He is a musician. Keon, welcome to Unfiltered.
You doing, Roland?
So how long did this encounter actually take place?
It was probably a minute before I started recording, and it's probably maybe 5 minutes after it stopped. Because when she came at me, I guess the phone stopped recording.
So tell our folks what we didn't see, because we see her coming at you. What didn't we see?
Was my son and I, we stayed up late at night after Christmas, and we got up, and I was like, you know what, son, let's go get some brunch. Let's go downstairs and get some brunch. So we come downstairs in the elevator. We make these 2 quick little right turns, and you're right in the lobby. The minute we got into the lobby, this person looked at us like we were red and she was a bull. Like, she looked at my son, and she pointed at him, and she said, he has my phone. It's him. He's got it. Give me my phone. And she went right to him. And before that, I really couldn't believe it. Seriously, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a joke. And then immediately, my instinct said, you know what, let me start recording because some things just get out of hand really, really quickly. You just never know these days. So I started recording, and the rest is what it is. So literally dealing with her, telling, they're wrongfully accusing my son. He's 14 years old. I mean, that's my boy, my baby. And, literally treating him like he had no rights, like they had all rights over him. And I just wasn't okay with that at all. I mean, I've been all over the world with the best artists, from Jay-Z to Beyonce to Rihanna to everybody. And I'm a whole man, and I want my son to be that way. And I just can't have anybody talking to him any kind of way and just disrespecting his property and just his person and his body. So I just wouldn't allow it to happen. After the video cut off. It went on for, like I said, maybe 4 or 5 more minutes of this person literally trying to get to my son, scratching me, taking him down. Like literally this person was irate. I can't even make this stuff up. I mean, I'm still in shock about the whole incident. And I mean, it's literally like I don't know. I can't make up what it is. It's not like a movie. Go ahead.
What was strange to me, Keon, was the manager acting like she was in the right.
He came. I mean, he was there with her and basically empowering her, enabling her to basically shake my son down for his phone, for his property. And obviously, I paid for the phone, and no one else had the right to basically say, "Hey, boy, show me your papers." That's what it was like to me. Show me your papers. And it was just not going down with me. My son has his rights. My son, I want him to keep his dignity. Because in America, the problem is, as Black people, as people of color, sometimes our dignity is cut in half, and we need to have whole dignity. And I just wouldn't allow them to just take it from them that easily in that way. The manager basically wanted to use his quote unquote authority as a manager at the hotel to get my phone, to get my son's phone out of his pockets, to give to this lady who literally was not even a patron at the time. And I was a paying patron at the time. And of course, we heard you basically saying, "Oh, hell no, don't you hand that phone over." No, not at all. You're not getting this phone. He doesn't owe you anything, and no. Because it happens, and it's been happening for way too long, and we all know it. And the problem with with this incident is that it is something that we see every day. We see it all too often. And if I wasn't me, maybe this probably would have been swept under the rug as well. Nobody would have ever seen it if I hadn't videoed it, and then it would have been another incident of somebody's going wild and getting away with it.
So tell me this, Keon. First off, were y'all there when the Uber driver came up with her phone?
We were at the restaurant, like at some point. Literally, I don't know if I've ever been in shock, but as I play this back, as I go through day to day, I think I was in shock because we were eating. And, literally, I'm still, just basically couldn't believe that this had happened. I mean, I'm a professional. And my son is an amazing kid. We try to do the best for him. And just incidents like that is just not what we do. And the fact that this actually happened in this establishment and it was basically empowered by the management, I don't know, it put me somewhere else. I'm still somewhere else when it comes down to it. We were eating and we come back in, and I guess she was gone, but she had come back to, I guess, call the Uber or something. Somebody brought her phone back. I don't know what taxi company or Uber or Lyft, whatever it was. They brought it back and she got her phone. To no apology, to anything, to what had happened with my son. I mean, they totally disrespected my son. In a major way. And I just thank God that I was actually there to be with them. It's so often that the parent is not there with the child. If I had to come down a little bit later, I couldn't imagine what I'd have done if these people were on my son, because I'm a big guy. I'm 6 foot, like 220, 230. And, they really didn't care. They didn't hear anything that I had to say. As I told her, why don't you use the Find My iPhone feature? Everybody uses that I know. When you lose your phone, that was not enough for her.
I mean, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Was hilarious, Keon. When I was in Miami for American Black Film Festival, we were at a reception, and that was a sister who came there, and then she went, "Oh my God, I lost my phone," and so she was freaking out, and I said, "All you got to do is, here's my phone." I said, "I log out. You put in your Apple ID username, and then your account comes up. Ping your phone." That's exactly what she did. Pinged her phone. The Uber driver brought her phone back. That's how it works. But what gets me is she never apologized. The hotel has said, first of all, what was the name of the hotel? And because the parent company has said they have reached out to you. And so that's first. No apology of her. Did the manager ever apologize?
No. As far as like all of that to me is pretty blurry because it happened so fast and so.
Got it.
It's like I don't like. No, it was a blur, and so much so that it's still unbelievable, man.
So the hotel says the hotel company says they've reached out to you. Have you talked to them? And what is next? Has the woman been identified? What do you want to happen next? Because she assaulted you and your son.
Absolutely. So my attorney, Ben Crump, and we basically are, filing charges and trying to see what's next in the process. Legally and
hold on. When you said Keon, you said filing charges. Has she been identified? Say it again. Actions breaking up. Has she or has she not been identified?
She's been identified.
Got it. Okay, got it. So y'all are going to file charges against her for assault against you and your son. I didn't hear. Say it again. I'm sorry.
Yes, we intend to file charges.
Well, Keon, this is look, the reality is you're absolutely right. Had you not put your camera out and recorded it and not have gotten this attention, which is one of the reasons why I keep telling our folks, look, this shouldn't have to be the case. You've got these crazy range folks out here. A lot of folks, there are a lot of folks out there, white women and others who are challenging black people, as you said, demanding papers. And the reality is we must stand our ground and assert our rights and the right thing by fighting for your son and making it perfectly clear you don't have to bow down to anybody who is demanding you turn over your phone as if you were a thief. And that's exactly what this woman tried to do.
Absolutely. And, at this point, it's been too long, and we're going into 2021. We've had one black president. We're going to have we have president-elect, vice president-elect right now.
Right.
As, and, at this time, it's time for change. It's time for, no matter what you do, no matter what you look like, to be treated as a full-fledged whole person. We're not 3/5 a man anymore. And the idea that we need respect, our kids need respect, our young black boys, need to feel whole and feel protected wherever they go, no matter, being, falsely identified as, whatever, a thug or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. I deserve to be here. I paid my money to be in that establishment. We deserve to be there. We didn't deserve to be treated wrongly. We didn't deserve to be categorized as somebody who needed to offer up our property just because somebody asked for it. It's time out for that. And to me, it's more than an apology now. It's about change.
Right. You're right. Keon, we appreciate it, my brother. Thanks a lot. Give our best to your son.
Thank you so much for talking to me, Roland.
Thank you very much, sir. Candace, I want to go to you quickly, go to my panel quickly before I go to a quick break and then do some interviews here with some folks here in Albany. Candace, this is where lawyers, Ben Crump, an attorney, this is where you take folk and got to pay for what they did to him and his family.
That's right. And, one of the biggest takeaways, too, that I get from this is that he was a father and a son who were going to have a nice brunch. And then all of that was displaced by this. And this is what that young man is going to remember when it comes to Christmas 2020. All they were doing was going downstairs to eat. And then this is what happened. So, yes, this is more than just an apology. This is somebody that has to pay, because this is a woman that was trying to steal this young man's phone because that phone did not belong to her. Then she libeled him by calling him a thief. And then, as he said, as the father said, I mean, he was in shock. So you have a lot of emotional distress that was there. Civil rights violations by the hotel. I mean, the list goes on. Benjamin Crump took this case for a reason. Let's put it that way.
to simply say, I'm sorry. That's right. Charge her ass as quick as possible.
Absolutely. And I think those charges, hopefully also the judge or whoever the finder of fact is in this case you got to start having some harsher penalties as a deterrent. So folks will look up and say, you know what, maybe it's not a good idea, like the Central Park case. I don't know if that's been adjudicated yet or if that's been completed and what happened with her. But slapping folks on the wrist for making a mistake is not going to get it done. As Candace mentioned, you have to do something that's going to deter people. You got to change behavior. And we talk about this, obviously, with police shootings as well. Until you change behavior, these kind of things are going to persist. And I'm glad he took video, because without the video, everything would be different. Oh, I never said that. Oh, it didn't go down like that. The video speaks for itself. Great evidence. I'm glad Mr. Crump is taking the case.
Bottom line, Rena, I want them to embarrass the hell out of this woman. And for the next person who thinks about doing that, they go, damn, I might be on national television if I act a fool.
Mm-hmm. I've been looking for her name for a while, so I don't know where it is yet. I'm looking forward to it coming out, because she looks like just sort of any normal woman that you would run into in New York City, sort of. And I think one thing that grabbed me as a communicator is the nonverbals. And right when the video started, within a first few seconds, you can see her lightly put her hand on the shoulder of the manager, sort of saying, that's him. And to me, that sort of act of her putting her hand on the shoulder of the manager, who she probably didn't know before, it's sort of it's nonverbal that sort of says, hey, of course it's him. He's black. I mean, it's sort of that kinship. You're white, you get my plight. He's black. It must be him. And this is the problem. And so this is, I couldn't agree more with Mr. Brown there. I mean, I think here we are. This is about changing the way people see black people. This is really about white people and how they see black people. And then even white people how they see brown people like me. I mean, my brother is far darker in complexion than me and has been mistaken for somebody black before. And that doesn't matter. Because this is the thing. It's like, if your color is not white, are we not right? Are we suddenly thieves because we're darker than you because we have melanin in our skin? Are we suddenly like predisposed to commit a crime like that, and especially a petty crime? And it's just wild to me that this woman, and she clearly was suffering from some mental illness. I really do. She was very agitated and in a way that was to me not normal.
No. I ain't giving mental illness. It's some No, damn that. It's some ignorant, crazy ass white people out here and white women who act a fool. Like the woman in Central. No. I've seen this too many cases. Is folks with privilege. The woman who called the barbecue in Oakland when you had the woman who the brothers barely parked into the median and she called cops. The white woman who called on the black woman with the lemonade stand. I could go. The white woman with the UPS driver. The brothers wearing a damn brown uniform. It says UPS. The white man with the FedEx driver. I can go on and on and on. It ain't mental illness. White supremacy is not mental illness. It's white supremacy. And that's what that was. Pure and simple.
I do agree.
All right, folks.
I do agree with that.
But I'm not going to just let them slide with mental illness.
I'm not saying it needs to be medicated. No. She had a crazy look in her eye.
It needs to be no. It needs to be adjudicated. Throw her punk ass in jail and make her pay up for assaulting that man and his son. Michael. Well, guess what? And make her ass real famous. Michael, Rena, and Candace, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Got to go to a quick break. Real quick, I'm going to come back. Final interviews with some folks here in Albany, Georgia. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment.
We learned early in Sunday school that thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt not have no other gods before me. Raphael Warnock's opponent seems to have forgotten these basic Sunday school lessons.
Her gods of greed, her lies about Pastor Warnock, and her shady Wall Street practices are evidence of this. And on January the 5th, let's bear witness that greed, lies, and shady dealings don't represent Georgia. Let's send Raphael Warnock to the U.S. Senate to fight for the least of these and not Wall Street billionaires.
You are leading the way for the rest of this state. And we believe that this state is on the verge of shocking the entire country.
Keep your eyes on the prize and hold on. What y'all know about that damn office? And ultimately, we know we can't let nobody turn us around.
If it turns out that the Senate is hinging on one seat, and there's only one race left, that's right. This will literally be the epicenter of the entire country, right? So we ready.
Music has an ability to be able to help us feel connected. And that's because music has a way of speaking to the spirit. And it is the spirit we're going to change this country with. It is going to be standing in a space of our power and in the fullness of our spirit of love and the spirit of humanity. That is what's going to transform America.
All right, folks, welcome back to Albany, Georgia, where we've been here all day, focused on the Georgia Senate runoff race. Joining us right now is former state representative here in Georgia, Joyce Barlow. Joyce, first of all, I take it you're an AKA.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you.
You got enough pink and green on. So let's talk about...
We told them the smear ads were coming, and that's exactly what happened. You would think that Kelly Loeffler might have something good to say about herself if she really wants to represent Georgia. Instead, she's trying to scare people by taking things I've said out of context from over 25 years of being a pastor. But I think Georgians will see her ads for what they are. Don't you? I'm Raphael Warnock, and we approve this message.
We are all Americans. We rise or we fall together.
This is a critical moment in the history of our country. So many people are depending on us.
Let me live. They want us to forget they're still trying to take away our health care in the middle of a pandemic. Let me breathe.
I'm running so that ordinary people can have a path of prosperity.
Let me be who I want to be, where I want to be it. Let me be free.
Give me your child.
I am tired.
Give me your poor.
But I am strong.
Give me your hand.
I'll be here.
I will guide
'Cause I know I belong.
You have two extraordinary candidates in John and the Reverend who deserve your vote. And let's face it, you've also got two senators who badly need to be replaced.
Oh, yes. Give me my freedom. Give me my freedom. Give me my freedom, and I will rejoice.
This has to be a movement-style, bottom-up, grassroots turnout effort unlike anything we've ever seen in our history.
May we rise to the challenge of this renewed reckoning around race and push back hard against the forces of bigotry.
All I ask of you, all I ask of you, all I ask of you.
All right, folks, Roland Martin, welcome back to Albany, Georgia. Hopefully we're not going to freeze this time. This third time is a charm. Joined by former state representative Joyce Barlow. Joyce is here in all of her pink and green glory. Taking the AKAs are going real hard. Y'all saw, Ra?
Yes, we are. We are working really, really hard for President-elect Biden and our Kamala Harris, President-elect. What we're doing, our program is called AKAs Lead Georgia. And right now, that means we are learning and trying to assist folks. We are advocating, empowering, and helping them to decide. And all of that means is we're educating them, we're teaching them about mobilization, registration, voting, and understanding about the candidates that are out there and making an informed decision when they decide to vote. We're working also in the rural areas, the areas that frequently get overlooked, that surround Dougherty County, Randolph, Early, Clay, Calhoun, Stewart, Webster, and Quitman counties. Those populations, their votes are just as important and were part of turning the state of Georgia blue. And we really want to make sure they're well represented.
And so, so are y'all going door to door? We know exactly what canvassing are you doing?
We are doing a lot of vote tripling. We're talking to people after they voted and asking them or reminding them in a nonpartisan manner to either text or call 3 friends to get them out to vote. And specifically in the rural counties, which we have a lot of volunteer people who are canvassing, boots on the ground, door to door, knocking. Even though our populations are not as condensed and compact, we have to make sure we get the people who are in the city, the small cities, as well as going out to the county, knowing whether Miss Ruth lives down the street and Mr. David is 2 or 3 doors down, and knocking on their doors and letting them know we care about them and their vote is just as important as the people in the big cities.
All right. Well, Joyce Barlow, we surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Y'all keep it up.
Thank
you got 7 days left.
Yes, on it.
All right, got one more. Come on up. One more interview we'll do quick here just to give y'all what's happening here. All right, tell folks who y'all are.
Hey, how you doing, Roland? I'm Commissioner Demetrius Young, Ward 6 here in Albany, Georgia, and I'm with our my good friend Faruqi. We are 2 of the principals in the Election Protection Coalition here in Dougherty County, which is a group of local organizers who a lot of groups such as Black Voters Matter and Woke Vote and a lot of different groups have partnered with to do a lot of the work here on the ground. And I just want to thank you for coming and shining some light on Southwest Georgia.
How's it been going thus far?
Been going pretty good. The turnout has been phenomenal. People like Black Voters Matter have actually been in our community for well over a year now. Right. I'm a first-term city commissioner, and I had a runoff in my first election. And with the work they did, they almost had us match our general election turnout in my runoff. So we're hoping for the same result in this election.
Yeah, and we're seeing, I mean, almost 1,000 people voted yesterday alone.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're, I think, at 9,000 for early voting in person at downtown for the county. So we're seeing high turnout and a lot of enthusiasm.
And what a lot of people don't realize, I mean, African Americans prefer to vote in person. And so if you're seeing that turnout early voting, is that just early voting? Does it include absentee voting, or is that just in-person voting?
That's just in-person voting.
Right.
So that doesn't even count in the many people who have been voting by mail because of COVID and because they just want to vote by mail.
Right. Well, and as I talked earlier, Benny Hand, I mean, what Republicans have been trying to do, just throwing a free legal roadblock, folks have been looking like Olympic hurlers jumping over it, but it's real.
Yeah, well, let me tell you about that, Roland. The woman that brought the challenge is my city commission colleague, and that's beyond a white woman, but she represents a district that's over 70% black.
Wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute. Woman who filed the challenge represents a district that is 70% black.
70% black.
We know she's to get her ass thrown out next time. When the city commission
Next November.
November?
Is her
all right, I might have to come back in 2021 to campaign against, what woman's name?
Commissioner B.J. Fletcher.
B.J. Fletcher. Y'all, Roland Martin Unfiltered, my back in Albany. next September and October, so we can throw B.J. Fletcher. So she 70% African American in her district. Yes. She's the one trying to challenge black votes.
Yes. And Roland, is for me, it's a personal thing because my mother was one of the first black city commissioners here in Albany, Georgia. She actually sued to have ward elections because before it was all at large, so we could not get a black representation on the city commission before she sued them. And Ward 3 was her district, and that has historically been, where.
Hold on, you go pull your mask up.
I'm sorry.
Just be safe.
Yeah, but it's beyond. It's a personal thing for her to represent that many people and be a part of something like that. And of course, she's going with the trope that she's doing this to protect integrity of the election and protect against voter fraud. And
when they can't produce any evidence of voter fraud. I mean, all across the country, these Republicans throw out that and they can't produce the evidence.
Exactly. And she even said that somebody had voted for her mother, but we have no knowledge of any challenge that she issued at the time about somebody voting for her mother. But that's what they chose to play on the local news. That's why I'm glad you're here as a alternative to the information. I'm streaming this live on my Facebook page so all the followers can understand voter fraud is not real. Voter suppression is real. Right. Yes. And that's what she's engaging in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Final comment.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know the local organizers here, us, our organizations, we're doing this work before, during, and after January 5th. And our work continues after the runoff to make voting more fair, more accessible, more safe. And we're going to get B.J. Fletcher out, and we're going to get a lot of things done here. So thank you.
All right, then. Well, we appreciate the work that y'all are doing. That's why one of the reasons we want to come out here and amplify. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
All right, y'all take care. Folks, that is it for us. We're here in Albany, Georgia. It has been quite the day. We, of course, have been focused on many of these cities all across the state of Georgia. Tomorrow, we'll be broadcasting live from Savannah, Georgia. Not just the show, also look for us streaming the event taking place at noon. We're going to be visiting various businesses in Savannah as well. So look forward to being on the ground in Savannah. In Savannah, we want to see you out as well as where we're going to be there tomorrow. Let me just tell you where we're going to be real quick here. Hold on. 1 second here. So in Savannah, it's a black church we're gonna be at. Yeah, just give me a second. All right then. So we're gonna be it's a Get Out the Campaign rally taking place at Bethel AME Church. Bethel AME Church, 1814 East 38th Street in Savannah, Georgia. So we shall see you tomorrow there. Folks, please support what we do. Roland Martin Unfiltered, your support of our Bring the Funk fan club allows for us to be able to be able to travel, be able to sit here and cover these type of stories. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo.com is /M Unfiltered. Zelle is RolandMartin.com. You can see New Vision Me Inc., 1625 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. 2006. We thank all supported. You've been phenomenal supporters. Tomorrow's going to be our last show of 2020. Of course, we're going to be off Thursday and Friday, so we're going to have all the listing of all of our fan club members. So if you want to be on that list in 2020, send your contribution in. We're going to be dropping that list tomorrow on today's show. And so we certainly appreciate it again. I will see you guys tomorrow from Savannah, Georgia, where we are here covering the Georgia Senate runoff. Black media should be here on the ground telling our story. We shouldn't be waiting on anybody else to do so. That's why we do what we do here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, where we keep it real, keep it black, we keep it unapologetic, because we don't have to ask anybody a damn thing to cover our news, our perspective, our way. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla!